The woman was already dead when investigators forced open the door, and had been for some time. Her body lay in isolation and squalor, discovered only when officials arrived to evict her over unpaid rent. She was impoverished and alone. It was something she was familiar with after years of living under the oppressive North Korean regime. But she didn't die in the Hermit Kingdom. It was in South Korea, one of the richest nations in the world, a country that had promised to care for defectors like her. To outsiders, North Korea and South Korea look like polar opposites, and a classic case of the haves and the have-nots. To the south of the border, people will find a glittering tech-savvy country filled with powerful companies, a rich cultural scene, and boundless opportunities. Once ruled by military dictators, South Korea has transformed into a thriving democracy, one strong enough to turn back a coup attempt by a former president and remove him from office with remarkable speed. Today, it's also one of the fastest-growing economies, and it's only miles away from one of the world's most repressive regimes. Split from South Korea since the Korean War, North Korea remains a staunch communist dictatorship under the absolute rule of the Kim family. The lives of residents are strictly controlled. The slightest deviance from the many laws of the Hermit Kingdom can get entire families sentenced to penal labor camps for generations. It's no surprise that many people want to get out, but that's not easy. North Korea strictly prohibits its residents from leaving, and an attempt to escape will result in being sent to a worse labor camp or executed. Not to mention, North Korea has only two borders. To the south lies the demilitarized zone, one of the most fortified frontiers on Earth. To the north is China, an uneasy ally that often turns a blind eye but rarely offers real sanctuary. But despite these obstacles, the human spirit can never be deterred. Those who have escaped from North Korea often have stories about their escapes that seem like something out of the wildest Hollywood movies. Many have written books about their experience, but one of the more recent escapes was also one of the wildest. A man only known as Mr. Kim pulled it off shortly after North Korea's COVID lockdown lessened. He escaped with his pregnant wife, his mother, his brother's children, and the urn with his father's ashes. They took to the sea during rough weather, a planned escape due to the fact that fewer Coast Guard vessels would be out due to the turbulent waters. But to get there, they had to climb through a minefield while dodging guard searchlights, and even one wrong move would mean death. To get the children to safety, they dosed them with sleeping pills and hid them in grain sacks. The men were armed with swords, the women with poison, and they all carried a rudimentary version of tear gas, an eggshell filled with chili powder and sand. It was an extremely risky escape, but life in North Korea had become unbearable. Since the pandemic, food, which was always scarce, had become near impossible to find, and people were reportedly starving en masse. With no way to protest their government and oppression getting more severe, he knew it was time to go. The escape was an extended process, with him recruiting his brother first and using him to get access to the water. From there, he recruited his mother and wife, knowing all the while that if one person hesitated, it could cost them everything. First, they had to escape the security, and then they had to survive nature. The rickety boat groaned against the relentless current, every wave threatening to capsize them or smash the hull against jagged coastal rocks. But this was the safest route. The water was the only clear path to South Korea that didn't take them through the DMZ. As they pushed forward, a North Korean vessel appeared on the horizon, and it was gaining on them. Their hearts were pounding, but before it could catch them, they crossed the invisible maritime border. Safe at last, they landed on a South Korean island and were rescued by the South Korean Navy. Many North Koreans are willing to risk everything for a great escape, but the reality on the other side may not be as rosy as they were led to believe. Intense patriotic programming in North Korea kept dissension and defections low for the first few decades of the regime. But the North Korean famine of the 1990s made conditions unbearable. Since crossing the DMZ is nearly impossible and defecting by sea is extraordinarily dangerous, most North Korean refugees still flee through the Chinese border. But that is just a stopgap. As a close ally of North Korea, China refuses to recognize North Koreans as refugees. If caught, they are swiftly deported back to the regime, a decision that can mean imprisonment, torture, or execution. So most quickly find their way to another country, often South Korea, where they might have relatives. And that's because North Korea and South Korea are essentially the world's longest, nastiest divorce. The two Koreas are caught in a strange frozen conflict. Neither country recognizes the other, and both continue to hold out that they should be reunified under their system of government. That means that South Korea doesn't consider North Korea defectors to be refugees. That means that South Korea doesn't consider North Korean defectors to be refugees. They consider them to be rightful residents of their country, and they have an elaborate system to bring them back into the country. The first step upon arriving is for the defectors to enter the North Korean Refugee Protection Center. But this won't be a smooth entry because North Korea is welcoming but cautious. As South Korea and North Korea are still in a state of intense hostility, both countries are paranoid about spies and enemy agents, so the first step will be for any refugee to undergo an intense interrogation conducted by 4 different government agencies. The primary fear is North Korean spies trying to infiltrate the country. The questioning is intense, sometimes lasting for months, as agents try to determine who is genuinely fleeing oppression and who might be trying to game the system. Because at least on the surface, South Korea makes some big promises. South Korea has been rolling out the welcome mat to defectors from the North since 1962, with the government passing a law to protect and support them in 1962. Revised in 1978, the law initially provided allowances to all refugees based on their perceived value to the state. However, the number of defectors increased and the government started to worry about people taking advantage. So in 2004, the law was amended to reduce the sum offered from the equivalent of $24,000 to just over $8,600. Still a nice chunk of change, especially because that is just the beginning of what the government is offering. The government offers some defectors apartments, and anyone who wants to get an education can enroll in a South Korean university free of charge. Additionally, if those who have key information on North Korea want to share it and become an intelligence asset, they can earn a hefty interview fee per hour. They can even be given a personal bodyguard if they feel that they're in danger. The resettlement package changes with each new administration, but it still includes significant support. From settlement benefits, housing subsidiaries, free education, and 12 weeks of intensive adaptation training to fill them in on South Korean life, the country tries to give these refugees the best chance they can have. So why do things seem so wrong for so many? As of 2017, there were just over 31,000 North Korean defectors registered in South Korea. Surprisingly, 71% of them were women, which might give them a harder road to climb when they arrive in South Korea. They're less likely to have had a position of power in North Korea or had access to relevant information. The vast majority are relatively young, with 58% being between 20 and 39 years old. That gives them a chance to get their footing in the country and find a new profession and stability. But so far, the results have been distinctively mixed. According to the same study, almost half of North Korean refugees in South Korea are either unemployed or relying on someone else for support. The vast majority of the rest are classified as workers, getting jobs in retail, factories, or other entry-level positions. Only a small percentage have reached higher positions. Men may have an edge in one way, although it is a double-edged sword. They're required to do a stint in the South Korean military, if physically able. That can be a challenging way to begin your time in a new country, but it also opens up a whole world of opportunity, something that is absent for women. And even among your countrymen, things don't always go so smoothly. One of the biggest challenges that North Korean defectors experience is discrimination. Many come to South Korea without much knowledge of the country, or worse, only the skewed knowledge of decades of North Korean propaganda. The intensive adaptation training that South Korea provides is aimed at getting past that. But it's hard to undo decades of programming, and that perception of ignorance always makes it hard for refugees to get past first impressions. Many report trouble getting medical care, poor working conditions, and being treated like a specimen by journalists. And it's no surprise that has led to a critical mental health crisis among defectors. While a new life begins in South Korea, no one is quite able to leave the old one behind, and all North Korean defectors have trauma they bring with them. Even for a young defector who was brought there with their parents, they're likely to have experienced starvation and poverty in their former country. The older they get, the more likely they are to have witnessed government oppression, arrests, or other violence. And for any who spent time in a labor camp, it is highly likely they've seen torture or watched people die or be executed around them. And the odds are their escape from North Korea was terrifying. And then begins the process of unlearning everything. One of the biggest challenges of assimilating to South Korean life is overcoming the cradle-to-grave propaganda in North Korea. For those who grew up in the North Korean education system, the outside world was painted as a dystopia, a corrupt and hopeless place. They were taught that the rich hoard everything, while the poor are left to starve. and that only North Korea offers true equality. So, when defectors arrive in South Korea and discover a vastly different reality, the truth can be both liberating and deeply disorienting. Except that for many North Korean refugees, it doesn't feel entirely untrue. Many refugees are battling PTSD, and they find that being in a strange and unfamiliar country makes their stress worse. Homesickness, culture shock, and the feeling of invisibility are common. As the initial support runs out and they struggle to adapt, the society seems to be leaving them behind, and they start to feel more like outsiders and unwanted dependents. Depression and other forms of mental illness are far higher among North Korean refugees, and due to mistrust among the population, many are very hesitant to seek help from the government or mental health organizations, and that leads to many tragic ends. It was a shock to the government and the North Korean defector community in South Korea when the 49-year-old woman was found dead in her apartment in 2022. She had fled North Korea in the early 2000s and had initially one of the most successful stories from the community. Not only did she adapt to life in the southern nation, but she even got a government job, offering consulting to other defectors on how to adapt to South Korea. But somewhere along the way, things took a tragic turn. She disappeared from the community and was eventually found long dead in her apartment. She quit her job in 2017 and soon stopped paying her phone bill and her rent. It seems like she essentially just went into a complete seclusion and cut ties with anyone who might know her. And in South Korea, that was a very small number. Most North Korean refugees are highly isolated. The majority are left to essentially start a completely new life in North Korea. And that life often has many stumbling blocks. It wasn't the first time the culture was shocked by finding a North Korean refugee dead in their apartment, and it wasn't the most disturbing. In 2019, the bodies of Han Seong-ok and her son Kim Dong-jin were found in their apartment. They had been dead for about 2 months, and the cause of death was starvation. The woman had been unable to find steady employment, and the cost of food in the country shocked them. Unwilling or unable to get government help, the duo eventually succumbed to their hunger and cast a disturbing spotlight on this ugly secret of their society. And for some, the horrors of the homeland are never far away. Cases like Mr. Kim are extremely rare. Many defectors are forced to leave alone, either because family members are unwilling to leave or they're unable to make the trek. And while a new life possibly awaits them in South Korea, they know they'll never see their loved ones again due to how strictly North Korea controls communications out of the Hermit Kingdom. And what's worse, many North Koreans have been arrested or even executed because a loved one defected. That means many refugees are living with the omnipresent horror that they may have traded their own life for the life of members of their family. And this is why the government keeps close tabs on them, but it may not make things easier. North Korean defectors are highly vulnerable to being manipulated by North Korean agents who have been operating in South Korea for decades. They may try to blackmail defectors with their fate of their family at stake, or try to convince them that they'll be treated well if they return. This fear is another element leading to mental health issues among refugees, so they're assigned a local police officer to keep tabs on them. This is usually an older officer, sometimes close to retirement, who conducts friendly check-ins, but refugees feel like this is an added layer of surveillance on them that keeps them from ever feeling like they truly belong. And in some cases, that leads to desperate actions. You've escaped one of the most brutal, hardest to escape places in the world, so why would anyone ever decide to try to go back? As hard as it is to believe, there have been many cases of people trying to defect back to North Korea. The most famous case involved a man in his 30s in 2024. He had defected from North Korea around a decade before, but had never quite found his footing in the new society. He tried to hold down a job, but started to feel homesick for his strictly regimented country of origin, and longed to unite with family members he had left behind. So he did the only thing that made sense. He stole a bus. After taking the vehicle from a garage in Paju near the border, he proceeded to drive it to the unification bridge that separates the two countries. Of course, this is easier said than done. The bridge is one of the most tightly guarded places in the world, and he was quickly foiled by a barricade. After ignoring the orders to stay back, he was arrested by military border guards and taken back to South Korea, where he likely faced better treatment in the criminal justice system than he would have if he made it over the border. And the shocking part is he wasn't alone. While over 1,000 people manage to flee North Korea for South Korea each year, the opposite is much rarer. Between 2012 and 2022, only 31 people are known to have tried to cross into North Korea. And it's not hard to see why. North Korea's treatment of deserters who return is harsh, with them most likely to be returned to hard labor camps. But for those who left a family behind in the North, that may be a price they're willing to pay. Even if they're back in a terrible situation, it'll be a situation they know how to survive. And for some, that oppression may almost be comforting by now. In North Korea, one of the defining characteristics is that your life is heavily determined for you the moment you're born. The strict social classes are very hard to transcend, and most people work in the same profession their parents did. It's the definition of the statement, if you keep your head down, you have nothing to fear. The government is highly oppressive, but for those born into it and willing to go along with the program and never ask any questions, it's possible to simply go through life and avoid the government's eye. For many North Koreans, it's all they've ever known. But in the South, things are far more uncertain. There's far less oversight in South Korea, and that can be a positive and a negative. While the early years for a defector in the South are likely filled with government interviews, subsidies, and opportunities, it is very easy for them to later slip through the cracks. Not only do many defectors not have any work experience in a civilian capacity, but many don't have any experience with whole types of work. Few have ever had a part-time job or worked in a service or customer-facing position. In North Korea, you're often given your job by the government. It serves the national interest, and you work it until you die. You have one skill drilled into you for years, and your next meal depends on performing it perfectly. And you really can't put that down on a job application. For many North Korean defectors, they have very limited perception of South Korea before they leave, and what they do know might not be based in reality. It's common for those dreaming of escape to watch Korean television in secret, and these K-dramas often portray a glamorous world of wealth and leisure. But for many working-class South Koreans, life is anything but, and that is the world these North Koreans find themselves entering. They find themselves isolated and struggling to make ends meet, and for others, the decision to return may not be entirely theirs. It's believed that some North Korean defectors may have returned because they were blackmailed using the fate of their family, and others may have been kidnapped near the border. The presence of North Korean agents in South Korea is an ongoing threat to these defectors, but it is very hard to detect them because many of them may be using the cover of the very defectors they are targeting. This endless suspicion is part of the reason many defectors find it hard to find a community in South Korea, even amongst each other. And as for the fate of those defectors who return, no one can say. Little information comes in or out of North Korea. While state media occasionally boasts of previous defectors returning home, they rarely reveal any details of what happens to them next. At best, they're likely returned to the same work camp they were in before, but it is likely something worse awaits them, unless they have some valuable information to offer the North Korean leadership. This leaves many defectors with the difficult choice of struggling through an uncertain future in the South or returning to certain death in the North. But despite this, many young defectors have found a new lifeline as they adapt to a new country, social media. It's become possible for them to share their story online and find support from others who have fled dictatorships, even gaining a following on YouTube or TikTok that allows them to earn an income without ever having to get a traditional job. Of course, becoming a social media star also means running into TikTok teens who think North Korea is somehow based. That means those new internet celebrities should heed the #1 rule: never read the comments. And the signs are that things might be getting better. As of 2024, a new survey shows that a record number of North Korean defectors are happy in South Korea, reporting satisfaction with having more food, finding it easier to find a job and education opportunities, and they're free to express their opinions for the first time. While the average salary of a defector is still well below the national average, the most recent report has 63.5% being successfully employed. And while they do still face challenges, the government seems aware of those struggles and is actively seeking ways to increase support and ensure a smooth entry for their siblings from the North. Now check out Daily Life of a North Korean for an inside look into what those defectors have been fleeing. Or watch why TV in North Korea is so dangerous to flip through the channels and discover the bizarre propaganda that awaits.
On the 20th of February 2025, I became the first British tourist to gain access to North Korea in over 5 years. I am not a journalist, I have no political agenda, and I do not support the regime of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Welcome to the very, very cold Yanji, northeast China. 20 kilometers in that direction lies a country so secretive that when I was flying in, we had to close the blinds on the windows of the plane because we weren't allowed to look outside. Tomorrow morning, I'll be among the first group of non-Russian tourists in over 5 years to step foot inside North Korea. Without any further ado, roll the cliche intro featuring a compilation of news reporters saying the words North Korea over and over and over and over again.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea.
British travel influencer Mike O'Kennedy, one of the first Western tourists to visit North Korea since before the pandemic.
Looks like North Korea's back on the menu, boys. It's the most isolated country on Earth, and since January 2020, it's been completely closed to the outside world. Until now. While 13 of North Korea's administrative divisions remain closed, one has opened up. Razon. Not only is it the one place in the world where Russia, China, and North Korea, the three bad boys of Eastern politics, stand side by side, it also happens to be North Korea's controlled experiment with foreign trade. Come with me on this two-part series as we step into the most secretive and isolated country on Earth, North Korea. Hello, I'd like to speak to literally anyone outside of North Korea. No, you didn't think so? Now, before we head into North Korea, let's clear up a few things. This is going to be unlike anything I've ever filmed, and that's because North Korea is unlike anywhere I've ever been. I like to do things solo, unaccompanied, whereas I'm going to be very accompanied. I'll be with a tour group and a tour guide. It's the only way that you can see North Korea is with a tour. I like to do things unplanned. This is going to be very planned. The next 5 days have been meticulously planned months in advance by the tour company. I also like to do things as uncensored as possible. Now, this is North Korea,
so
the rules are different. I'd imagine
on stream, and we're going to go through
there's going to be things that we can and can't
exactly
do, things
you
we can and
keep
can't
and
see.
how you do
But
it.
what we're going to
on a
do
new server.
is what we always
So we have joined the hard mode server. We've left all our stuff behind. So, mods, you keep all of your mods. And you can use some of it. Say I want to bring over these controllers. Do that. So I'll probably... You can... Which is really important because the hunger and thirst goes down so quick.
So if you didn't know, on November 21st, we got a patch for Eternaland, which allows us to able to trade or discard or store items from all space-time backpacks while in Eternaland. In my Discord, I have opened a Once Human market channel where you can trade across all regions, North
do, and go in with an open mind, with an unbiased perspective, and I promise you I'll be showing you exactly what it is I see. Now, I've got to get out of this fucking forest. This is the Chinese border going into North Korea, and it's a border that quite literally hasn't been used in over 5 years by a tourist. It'll be interesting to see what the Koreans check: my phone, my camera, my passport, my 47 copies of the DVD Team America World Police, and I'll try and document the entire process. After crossing the bridge over the Tumen River, the body of water separating China and North Korea, our passports were checked, stamped, and then we were instructed to list every electronic device in our possession. That list had to match our items on the way out, not because they're worried about what we might take with us, but because they're concerned about what we might leave behind. You're not allowed to bring anything that could be considered politically sensitive, such as a book about North Korea or a USB containing external political content. And just like that, we're in North Korea. Let's see what planned adventures there are for us over the next 5 days, starting with a bus through the countryside and see what we can see. very first thing that struck me was the sheer amount of farmland. With 80% of North Korea covered in mountains, every available piece of usable land is dedicated to farming, and I mean every single piece. This isn't just due to necessity, but also stems from the country's core ideology of self-reliance, which prioritizes producing as much of its own food as possible rather than depending on imports. We are also told that the country doesn't use any form of chemical fertilizer. The residents are asked to collect their own bodily waste, which is then taken to the fields and used as organic fertilizer. Being a socialist communist country, there are no advertisements in North Korea. Instead, almost everywhere you look, you'll see this government propaganda designed to inspire the people. This one says, unwavering loyalty. We had 5 North Koreans with us, 3 guides, a driver, and a photographer. They were very friendly, always polite, and they did their absolute best to make sure that we felt at ease. But no matter how welcoming they seemed, there was no shaking this feeling that we were being watched. Always.
So walking into the nature reserve now, as much as I love, this is where this trip's going to be really tough for me, because as much as I love going around and seeing the things that they want you to see, the deer park, and we're going to visit a bank, which is going to be very interesting. What I'm interested in is what's going on beyond those mountains, and beyond those mountains, and in these villages. I've got a feeling there's not going to be a lot of human interaction on this trip, which makes me very sad. Give me a bag of your finest. A bag of your finest carrots, please, sir. I'll take whatever you've got. I'll take some corn. Get some corn, thanks, dude. There you go, dude. So they raise them. One of the reasons they raise them for meat is one of them, and also they cut off the antlers every couple of years, and they use the antlers to make some kind of medicine. Go away. Oh, fucking hell, go on, mate. Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah. Oh, you're scaring him off. You were scaring him off. Oh, fucking hell. I'm getting attacked by North Korean deers. Don't worry, I'm not from America. I'm not from fucking... You were... Oh.
Into the nature reserve now. As much as I love, this is where this trip's going to be really tough for me because as much as I love going around and seeing the things that they want you to see, the deer park, and we're going to visit a bank, which is going to be very interesting. What I'm interested in is what's going on beyond those mountains. And beyond those mountains and in these villages. I've got a feeling there's not going to be a lot of human interaction on this trip, which makes me very sad. Give me a bag of your finest. A bag of your finest carrots, please, sir. I'll take whatever you've got. I'll take some corn. Get some corn, thanks, dude. There you go, dude. So they raise them. One of the reasons they raise them for meat is one of them, and also they cut off the antlers every couple of years, and they use the antlers to make some kind of medicine. Go away. Oh, fucking hell, go on, mate. Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah. Oh, you're scaring him off. You were scaring him off. Oh, fucking hell. I'm getting attacked by North Korean deers. Don't worry, I'm not from America. I'm not from fucking hell. I said the word America and they've all gone nuts. The fur changes colour.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah?
Very beautiful.
Oh, wow. The thing is, because we're feeding them,
Yep.
every time they see a white dude now, they're going to get hungry. Come with me to visit a mineral water factory. Yay. Mr. Moon, you said this is a factory.
Yeah.
This is a factory. Where are the factory workers? The people working here? Dude. Being a socialist communist country, see this government propaganda designed to inspire the people. North Koreans with us, 3 guides, make sure that we felt at ease. But no matter how welcoming they seemed, there was no shaking this feeling that we were being watched, always. So walking into the nature reserve now, as much as I love, this is where this trip's going to be really tough for me because as much as I love going around and seeing the things that they want you to see, the deer park, and we're going to visit a bank, which is going to be very interesting. What I'm interested in is what's going on beyond those mountains and beyond those mountains and in these villages. I've got a feeling there's not going to be a lot of human interaction on this trip, which makes me very sad. Give me a bag of your finest. A bag of your finest carrots, please, sir. I'll take whatever you've got. I'll take some corn. Get some corn, thanks, dude. There you go, dude. So they raise them. One of the reasons they raise them for meat is one of them, and also they cut off the antlers every couple of years, and they use the antlers to make some kind of medicine. Go away. Oh, fucking hell, go on, mate. Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah. Oh, you're scaring him off. You were scaring him off. Oh, fucking hell. I'm getting attacked by North Korean deers. Don't worry, I'm not from America. I'm not from fucking hell. I said the word America and they've all gone nuts. The fur changes colour.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah?
Very beautiful.
Oh, wow. The thing is, because we're feeding them,
Yep.
every time they see a white dude now, they're going to get hungry. Come with me to visit a mineral water factory. Yay. Mr. Moon, you said this is a factory.
Yeah.
This is a factory. Where are the factory workers? The people working here?
What's the day today?
The day today is
Saturday?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah. What I've just noticed, this is a mineral water factory. The water runs straight from the mountain into this building, and there is kind of like a grotto. I'll get some more videos with my camera, with my phone. Kind of like a grotto where there's just water pouring out and a cup where you can go and drink the water. And nothing else here. And no one else here. Let me show you what this thing looks like on a good camera. A little bit of the old... No, what do you say? Don't drink too much of it. Because you could get sick. Pretty much every individual house I saw in this region looked exactly the same. Simple white walls with blue roofs. In North Korea, all property is owned by the state and the people don't get to choose where they live. Housing and living arrangements are largely influenced by a family's political, social, and economic background. However, many believe that this traditional system is becoming outdated, with financial wealth playing an increasingly dominant role over social status. One thing that really impressed me with these new rural housing developments: my guide told me the government is currently building 500 high-quality homes in every county per year. With 145 counties across the country, that's a huge number of houses being put up. Hi, how are you? Let's see what a North Korean hotel room looks like in 2025. What do we have? Coffee, tea, water. I think this is a heated bed scenario. That'd be nice. We've got a phone. Let's try and call someone. What? Hello, I'd like to speak to literally anyone outside of North Korea. No, didn't think so. Oh, the windows have been sealed shut. We love that. We do love that. Good for fire emergencies. First impressions of North Korea. We spent 2 hours traveling on a bus from the border of China. I reckon I saw about 20 people in that time. Not a lot of people, no cars, maybe like 1 or 2 taxis in that whole journey. People on bicycles, the people that I did see were on bicycles. They're out on the farm. I didn't see any farming equipment. I didn't see any, considering the amount of farming equipment there is here, no tractors, no harvesting crap, you know? Where I am now, Rason, is an incredibly unique and a very, very unvisited part of North Korea, even before COVID. And it's very, very interesting. A lot of foreign investment. Think of it as a kind of experiment by the North Koreans to introduce some form of capitalism into the country. I'm going to learn about it. We're going to look around. We're here for 5 days, man. Forget about it. Chill out, man. Chill out. I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. Okay, I guess I'm buying a whole deck of ciggies then.
So those are 727s.
Yeah.
727 stands for 7/27/1953, the day of the end of the Korean War. The most expensive one and the most nationalistic one, and the one smoked by Chairman Kim.
Thank you, madam. So the cigarettes I bought back there in the souvenir shop, I used Chinese money for. Now you might be thinking, Mike,